Welcome back, everyone, to the Wedge 52 Gridiron Podcast. I'm your host, Wedge. Today's episode will be the Baltimore Ravens Week 14 recap. Ravens took down the Rams in a walk-off fashion overtime victory against the Los Angeles Rams in Baltimore. Before we jump in fully, please make sure you press that follow button right here on Spotify, as well as on Instagram at Wedge52Gridiron, and share this podcast with your fellow Baltimore Ravens and NFL fans. Let's jump into a thrilling overtime victory by the Ravens, starting with the Ravens Offensive Player of the Week goes to Lamar Jackson. He was 24 for 43 passing, 316 passing yards to go along with 3 passing touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, as well as 11 rushes for 70 yards. He was moving around in the pocket, avoiding defenders like only Lamar Jackson can do. As well as finding, targets downfield like Odell Beckham, like Isaiah Likely, like Zay Flowers for scores. He did miss a couple of open deep shots that, we would all prefer that he hits. But he did connect on a couple, so, that's all we can ask for, especially with, the weather conditions of last Sunday's game. Obviously, it was raining on and off very heavily for the duration of that game. Great performance by Lamar Jackson, 386 total yards, 3 touchdowns on the day. Offensive Player of the Week for Lamar, and Defensive Player of the Week goes to Roquan Smith, who led the team with 10 tackles on defense from that middle linebacker position. A couple of other stats from the game on Sunday versus the Los Angeles Rams. Odell Beckham Jr., 4 catches for 97 yards and a touchdown. That includes a deep ball touchdown. I believe that was 46-yarder, as well as a OBJ special, one-hander along the sidelines earlier in the game. Those are Odell's numbers. Zay Flowers had 6 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, the touchdown very late in the game, as well as he did get that 2-point conversion from Lamar and that offense. Very critical. Put the Ravens up by 3. Rams later came down and kicked a field goal. We went to overtime. The rest is history. Zay Flowers, continuing to ball as a young rookie, finding the end zone twice now in clutch time, instances in back-to-back weeks here. Back-to-back weeks that the Ravens have played. So definitely good to see Zay, not being afraid of the moment. Not that any of us had any, doubts about him being that way. And then Isaiah Likely stepping up in the absence of Mark Andrews. He has, played impressive so far this, since Andrews' injury. Sunday, 5 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown for Isaiah Likely. And then, to round out the offensive stats, Keaton Mitchell had 9 carries for 54 yards. He was, kind of our lead back. Not sure the exact offensive, split in terms of, plays on the field. Keaton Mitchell did get 9 carries, though, to Gus Edwards' 6 carries on Sunday. Nothing to be concerned about whatsoever. Keaton Mitchell's a stud. Gus Edwards, obviously a stud. 10 touchdowns on the year for Gus, I believe. But it is interesting to see if that's going to be, a trend that kind of starts to flip, where Keaton Mitchell is going to be kind of the primary back in terms of carries per game. We will see how that develops and continues to develop. Either way, it is nice to have a very good running back duo between Keaton Mitchell and Gus Edwards in that backfield. And then defensively, Justin Madubuike, 7 tackles and another sack on the season. He has been tearing it up all season long on that interior defensive line spot. And then on the back end, Geno Stone and Brandon Stevens each had 6 tackles apiece. And then obviously we cannot talk in this episode without mentioning the Tylan Wallace 76-yard walk-off punt return for a touchdown for the Ravens win. He broke some tackles, spun out of another one, almost stumbled, regained his balance, and continued down the sideline for the walk-off touchdown. for the Ravens, getting swarmed by the team afterwards. Absolutely incredible ending to what was a very good football game between two good teams. We knew the Rams were going to put up a fight. They've been mid to above average all season long. They had most of their guys healthy. They had Stafford. They had Kupp. Puka was, he's healthy. Kyron Williams was healthy. We knew that they were going to be a potential threat if we let them hang around, which, not mostly to our part, turnovers wise, a couple of busted coverages that led to big plays. Although no big touchdowns, long distance touchdowns by that Ravens defense allowed, bending in the rain, but they did not break, held on just long enough for the Ravens to find a way, for Lamar to find a way to score, tied things up, sent it to overtime. Tylan Wallace did the rest. Thank you, Mr. Tylan Wallace, for your contributions to this Ravens team, especially this past Sunday with the walk-off victory. And definitely a fun one in Baltimore. Just quickly, injury update on safety Kyle Hamilton. He did leave the game with a knee injury, returned for a few plays, and then later left the field and was announced that he was, not going to return. It came out he is dealing with a knee injury, grade 1 MCL sprain, I believe. Expected to miss very little to potentially no time, as considered day-to-day as of the time of recording this. I would not be surprised if he misses our next game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, kind of as a precautionary, long-term type of thing, get him healthy. The Ravens are expecting to make playoffs. Chances are, obviously much in our favor. But another, big matchup against the Jaguars who, we're contending for seeding with. So it definitely would be helpful to get Kyle Hamilton out there, who has been absolutely balling this year. Either way, we will see what happens. And, positive news, Kyle Hamilton should not be missing extended time with this knee injury. Now, quick look at a couple of stats for the Rams. Stafford had 294 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kyron Williams, 25 carries for 114 yards. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. Puka Nacua, 5 catches for 84 yards. There for the Rams offense. That's kind of all I have for the Rams versus Ravens recap, where the Ravens took down the Rams 37-31 in overtime. Now kind of moving on to, previewing the Baltimore Ravens' next matchup, where they head to Jacksonville to play the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday Night Football in Week 15. First of 2 back-to-back primetime games here. The Ravens head to Jacksonville to play Jaguars Sunday Night Football. Then the following week in San Francisco to play the 49ers Monday Night Football on Christmas. Both of these should be good ones. The Jaguars were what I would say upset, not shocking, not too eye-raising, but I would still consider an upset by the Cleveland Browns in Week 14, 31-27. Trevor Lawrence in that matchup, 28 for 50, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He was dealing with a high ankle sprain, suffered in the previous week. He played through it last, against those Browns on Sunday. You could tell he was hobbled. He was definitely not at 100%. Interesting decision by the Jaguars. They're fighting for playoff seeding as well. Probably would push Trevor Lawrence, push that staff to starting him. He obviously felt good enough to go. The team okayed it. They're trying to get seeding as well. But it did not work out for them. He struggled. He was hurt, hobbling. I would expect him to be hurt and hobbling again next week against the Baltimore Ravens. High ankle sprain is kind of one of those injuries that lingers around, especially when trying to play through an injury, to that region, when it's already not 100%. Travis Etienne, 14 carries for 35 yards and a touchdown in that Browns loss. And then Evan Engram was the star of the show for that offense. 11 catches, for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not enough to get the job done against the Browns, against former Baltimore Raven Joe Flacco, as the starting quarterback for them in Cleveland. Jags offense last week had only 58 total rushing yards, so definitely something, that can kind of, definitely raises some eyebrows. Definitely something where that Ravens defense can potentially, take advantage of that. We'll talk more about that in a little minute here. And then the Jags defense only allowing 4 for 18 on third down efficiency. So a lot of third downs that Browns offense faced, and a lot of unsuccessful third downs that Browns offense, was able to obtain via that Jaguars defense. That has been, the one strong point on that Jaguars defense that other than that has really struggled so far this season. Their three, offensive weapons besides Etienne out of the backfield. Christian Kirk, who we will not have to worry about. He is currently on IR. He will not be playing against the Baltimore Ravens. But Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Evan Ingram all have 700-plus receiving yards so far in the season. So definitely multi-dimensional in terms of pass-catching weapons. So the Ravens have done well against, multifaceted receiving core, tight end, pass-catching core so far this season. Hopefully that trend continues within our secondary. And, part of that is our front seven, Justin Madubuike, Clowney, even Van Noy, obtaining pressure on opposing quarterbacks very well all season long. And then, a look at team statistics, team ranks, both offensively and defensively for the Ravens and the Jaguars. Baltimore Ravens offense has been clicking, struggled the first couple of weeks, a lot of new players, new offense coordinator, things are going to happen, but have really got the ball rolling and have been playing very well. In terms of yards, they are ranked 6th at 386 yards per game, first in rushing yards at 157, 4th in points at almost 28, and 10th in third downs at 42.7%. The Jaguars offense on the other side ranks 12th in total yards at 358, 24th in rushing yards at just under 100, 9th in points at 24, and 19th in on third downs at 37.5%. Looking at the defensive ranks for both of these teams, Ravens defense 4th in yards allowed at 314, 4th in pass yards allowed at 180, 2nd in points allowed at 16.8, and 8th in third downs at a little over 36%. Jaguars defense, like I mentioned, they've been struggling in most categories, collectively this season. 22nd in yards at 371 yards allowed per game, 31st in passing yards at 265, 21st in points at 22.3, and, in that third down situation, Jaguars defense does step up, ranking 6th in the NFL at 35.4%, success rate for them, only allowing 35% of third downs to be converted by opposing offenses. So that's the quick preview there on the next matchup for the Baltimore Ravens, the Jacksonville Jaguars, happening on Sunday Night Football, like I said. Now here's my 3 Ravens keys to success. These are the things the Ravens should be looking to do to increase their chances of a victory on prime time in Week 15. Number 1 is going to be spread the love. This defense struggles against the pass, 265 passing yards allowed per game, 31st in the league, allowing 371 total yards. Lamar Jackson, Todd Monken needs to spread the love. They've been doing good at this recently. Odell Beckham Jr. is getting hot. Zay Flowers has been very good all season. And now, spreading it out as well to Likely when he's there. And then also getting Nelson Aguilar and Bateman, involved in their limited snaps. They're seeing the field, need to spread the ball out. That is only going to make it more difficult for a struggling, pass defensive team, as well as getting the running backs involved. If Keaton Mitchell's going to be getting more reps, Keaton Mitchell is more of, the dual threat guy versus Gus Edwards, as well as Justice Hill even, is decent at coming out of the backfield and catching balls. Spreading out the love on offense, passing-wise specifically, is going to really help that Ravens offense move the ball. My second key is going to be eliminate the run for that Jaguars offense. Ravens defense ranks very well in rushing yards allowed, fourth in total yards allowed, and that Jaguars offense struggles to run the ball at under 100 yards per game. By eliminating the run completely from that Jaguars offense, knocking out Travis Etienne's productivity will not only make it easier for our defense to be in pass situations against Trevor Lawrence, but also make Trevor Lawrence making the decisions, put more pressure on Trevor Lawrence, not only mentally in this case, but on him physically. If he's going to be dealing with a sore ankle, a high ankle sprain type of injury, forcing him to throw the ball, take as many dropbacks as possible, potentially force him outside the pocket, move him around, roll out, avoid pressure. All of that is going to, take an impact on his ankle, hopefully, decreasing his chances of success, in terms of, accuracy on his throws because of that inability to, throw off of that ankle, that inability to move outside the pocket, avoid pressure, create throwing angles for himself, all things of that nature. My third Ravens key to the game is going to be executing on third down offensively. The Ravens rank 10th in the league at 42.7, but they have struggled on third down the past 4 games that they've played. Last week, 33% on third down. Week prior, 30%. The week prior to that one, the Bengals game, I believe, 50%. And then before that against the Browns, just 25% on third down. So the Ravens offense, still ranking high in the league in terms of third down success, but they have been struggling in their past 4 games played. And that is also the Jaguars' strongest point on defense. It's going to be a double whammy to not only, help our offense, but to go at, the one thing that defense has going for them. Executing on third down for our offense is going to be a big part of this Sunday Night Football matchup. That's all I have for you guys today in this episode of the Wedge 52 Gridiron Podcast. Like always, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure you share this with your fellow Baltimore Ravens and NFL fans, as well as smash that follow button right here. Thank you all for listening once again, and go Ravens.